It's Steam Next Fest Summer 2023, and as always I'm rummaging through different games in different genres to see what tickles my pickle. This is a rhythm action and a music related game because there's very few purist rhythm games, and I kind of group them all together because it's a subgenre of mine that I adore. The first game up is Urbano, Legends Debut, and this is an RPG/narrative experience, heavy on the visual novel aspects, but every time you break off into something else, be that a fight or a dance-off or a mini-game for conversation to romance someone, it's a rhythm action game, or a mini-game. Now there's different types, and some worked better to me than others. The battles were interesting because it broke you down into a 3-lane rhythm action, quite traditionalist rhythm game, where you are ducking and jumping over different enemies on the top and bottom lanes, but in the middle you have to press a button in time with the music, or press and hold it, or button mash. Then when there's a gap in the enemies, you have to shovel forward to the right hand side of the screen, and this then means that you've got less warning for when the next load of enemies are coming along, consequently meaning that you're going to get harder difficulty as you go through the battle. Get hit by something and it pushes you back a level to the left hand side, so you're constantly trying to push your way to the right to win the battle, and I thought that was a really interesting and quirky way of going around RPGing. Outside of that, there was a hole in the wall, point your analog stick to the right corner of the screen for a dance off. That was fine. The one that confused me was a rhythmic conversation to try and romance people, because you was guessing from 4 random emojis to what you was going to reply to someone with. It didn't really make too much sense for me. So yeah, a little bit hit and miss, but I was intrigued enough to keep Urbano Legends Debut on my wishlist and see how it develops. The next game up is Life Is Not Auto, and this game is hard as nails. It's a rhythm action game, but it's designed about how far and how long you can keep your child alive and whether they can progress into adulthood. And it's because you're controlling all of their bodily functions like a rhythm game. So you have to breathe, you have to eat, you have to drink, you have to make your bladder and go the other side, you have to stimulate your brain. And so all of the different functions are at the bottom of the screen, mapped across 7 different buttons, but they're all kind of going at their own BPM pace. So sometimes you'll have to press and hold the space button to breathe in and breathe out, whilst also controlling your heartbeat and grabbing something to eat. And then once you've eaten something, you'll have to bladder it and pop it, ploop it out. But when you're doing that, maybe a heartbeat and a breath is coming along at the same time, and if you get a couple wrong, you die very quickly and you get given a death certificate on what killed you. I found this game really challenging, but really engrossing, and it was kind of one of those, I'm going to get further, and the further that I could get and the harder, the older your character gets, obviously more and more things are getting thrown up at you. I just thought it was a really good skinning or a reskinning of a rhythm game, so that it didn't feel like it, but it totally was. So yeah, Life Is Not Auto, definitely staying on my wish list. Next up is Vtuber Beats, which is essentially a complete reskin of Muse Dash, the 2-laned rhythm actioner, except instead of using D and J, you use F and J. That seemed to be literally the only difference that I could see between these 2 games. There are lots of great things about Muse Dash, and I absolutely adore that game, but it's such a powerhouse and the best example of that 2-lane genre that to copy something so closely like Vtuber Beats does, essentially just swapping out for new songs and some skins of some VTuber cartooners. I don't know the VTuber world particularly at all, so I don't know if these people are famous or not, but essentially it's the same as Muse Dash but not as good. And so why would you buy this? I'm not entirely sure. The songs were interesting and fun, the maps seemed okay, although the difficulty star rating is well out of whack for this, because a 1 star is easy as pie, a 2 star is absolutely crazy manic, and I was like, I don't think this is quite right. But I also found as well, the longer that you spent in the demo, the game started to desync as well, so that just needs to be solved as it goes through its development. But yeah, fundamentally a perfectly fine game, but Muse Dash already does exactly the same thing and does it with more songs and better. Next game on the list is Ojiv, or Ojiv, not sure, and it's a battler rhythm game, so you pit yourself against another character. What I didn't realise when I downloaded the demo is that this is a Senran Kagura style game, because whoever loses all of their clothes, and you've just got them with a busty breast kind of going, "Ugh!" So, your mileage on that will definitely vary. The main reason, though, why I didn't really click with this too well is the UI and the way how it confused me. So it's trying to emulate a guitar, or a 4-string guitar at least, because you've got Q, W, E and R all next to each other. I found that was cramping my finger style. But whenever you press down a button, the whole string drops down, obviously, because it's emulating a guitar. And so it's no longer in the place in the lane where you expect it. And it kept throwing me off. So that, combined with the fact that it felt like the music was quite MIDI and dull, and then all of a sudden an electric guitar would come in, and he was like, I don't feel like that's quite related to the rest of the music. It just felt a bit clunky and weird for me, and the smashing off of clothes didn't really add anything to the game at all whatsoever. I feel like there's a potentially decent rhythm action game here, but it just, that whole UI element was really confusing for me, and so it didn't really click. The next game on this list describes itself as a rhythm horror game, but not really. And it's called Detuned, and it's going to be really difficult to explain. This reminds me of like a retro PS1 experimental game, where you're moving between different spooky Japanese folklore themed horror areas. On the left-hand side of the screen, there's a chart of symbols that's going up the screen, and they're the different locations. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you have to then click with your mouse to go to locations that aren't going to hit the top of the chart on the left-hand side. Not a rhythm game, more like a symbol dodge 'em up, but not really. I get that it's experimental, I get that it's off the wall and a bit weird. There's no music to it either, it's just ambient weird noises and industrial clunks that then, as you move between different areas, kind of go a little bit like VHS glitchy and fuzzy. Really strange, didn't work for me at all. I like the fact that it's experimental and going off and doing its own thing, but the fundamental gameplay loop was confusing and just odd for me and didn't really stack up to being engaging. This felt like a tech demo from 1995 gone a bit weird. The next game on this list is a rhythmic platformer game called Krimson, and this one goes hard. It's based in hell. You are like this satanic collection of like skin, bones and guts. A little bit like Carrion, I'd say, but like zoomed in even closer. And the idea behind this is that as you move around hell, collecting hellfire and then delivering it to a satanic ritual pentagram at the end, everything around you is moving rhythmically to the beat. So you've got loads of sliding platforms moving around, platforms that turn themselves on or off to the beat of the rhythmic industrial noise and clangs and clatters and screams. Oh yes, this is a grand soundtrack. But it works really, really well. I like the fact that you as a character can kind of wall jump forever up like a ledge, and that's often used as a real mechanic, because as like skulls move around, as soon as you touch them you kind of die and need to respawn back to the last checkpoint screaming skull that you crossed. And I liked this demo as well because it chose different levels from across the entire game. So the boss battle that you'll be seeing where a skull's chasing me around is level 116, so it kind of makes me feel like there's a real plethora of game here, and it just really worked very well. Krimson, definitely staying on my wish list. It will be a Marmite choice for many though. The last 3 games on this list are less around being rhythmic and more around being musically centric. So Samba Space Parade, which is the game that you're watching now, sees you as a roguelike travelling around different planets trying to colonise them and take them over by playing a samba band marching through the land. However, what you need to do is click on each of the members of the band and move them out of harm's way of various different obstacles that can either kill them instantly or damage their health, and you can see they've all got hearts at the top of the screen. You can have up to 10 members of your Samba Space Parade, but obviously the more that you've got out there, the more difficult it's going to be to control, plus they're all level upable with more hearts or just like quicker speed of movement as you spend gold that you collect when you get to the end of a level with them. This was interesting. I liked the fact that the more and more players that you kept in the game and alive, the better your Samba sounded, and that was quite cool. But yeah, this stayed on my wish list for now, but it was probably one of the most least convincing stay on my wish lists that I've had for a while. The same can be said of EBI Tapes. Now this is a kind of adventure narrative game with some crazy artwork, but the idea behind this is that sound and music and like rhythm and noise is banned from the world that EBI lives in, but someone gives you a tape recorder, a little duck to be exact, and so what you're doing is going around and recording different sounds that different the water cooler or your cat or the bird song or pressing the button and having the paper shredder go off. And you're collecting all of these different sounds and then finding inspirational spaces to pick up different like rhythms or like key changes and things like that. And then you collect the sounds from the level and drop them into your cassette recorder to record like a little mini mixtape beat. Now, that sounds fantastic, but in reality what I found with EBI Tapes is that the beat and the rhythm and the cassette bits felt not tacked on, but it was like you were picking from pre-recorded sounds and samples from a DAW and then being given like a 10-second maximum way to make a song. And I'd have liked to have had that expanded out much more so that I could have more fun making noise and something that just didn't feel... It felt like a gimmick rather than something that you could actually create something musical out of. And that was my kind of dichotomy with EBI Tapes. Like the vibe, like the kind of whole ethos of this game, but the actual game mechanics and action, you can't really create very much, so it kind of shot itself in the foot. The last game on this list is called Shy Cat's Hidden Orchestra, and this is a hidden object game where 10, 20, 30 cats are all sat hidden in a giant landscape. I don't know why I struggled for that word, but I did, never mind. And when you find them, they get added to a generative, completely building layer of weird orchestra. Now, each world that you go to, or each land that you go to, has a totally different musical theme, and you can turn those cats when you find them on or off, reminding me a little bit of like a loop generator type game, but with a hidden object vibe to it. I thought this was really, really cool. There were some hidden bits around in the background about finding keys to unlock treasure chests that then unlock like flute solos and things like that. Really cute, very enjoyable, something that I definitely dip in and out of for just like a quick 5 or 10 minutes here or there, just to relax and unwind. And for that reason alone, it stayed on my wish list. So those are all the rhythm and music related games that I found in Steam Next Fest. Do let us know below if any of them are interesting for you, and if you're going to pop any of them on your wish list yourself. Give us a thumbs up if you found this useful and helpful, and I'll catch you again soon, hopefully, on Higher Plane Games. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.